ng ganito.
Ngayon lang po kasi kami nagkakaganito.
Kahit kunting tulong na pag-umpisahan lang namin ng
Dito sa Abra, masarap magkampanya. Napakaganda ng resulta. Maraming salamat sa tulong ninyo. Maraming salamat sa suporta ninyo. Ngayon, ako naman ang tutulong sa inyo at magsusuporta sa inyo. Lahat ng pangangailangan ninyo habang kayo ay nandito pa sa evacuation center ay meron kayong maibigay ang mga pagkain, mga kung ano man ang mga kailangan pa ninyo. Yun ang aming tinitiyak.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Riza Diaz. The big story tonight.
More than 3,000 families have been affected by the magnitude 7 earthquake that hit Luzon yesterday.
Now, President Bongbong Marcos visited the epicenter of the quake in Abra to check the damage and make sure that those affected will receive help. Mobile journalist Judy Baiza with the big story.
The Cordillera Administrative Region is among the areas that suffered the most damage after Wednesday's earthquake. According to the NDRRMC's latest update, 4 people have died in the Cordilleras due to the quake, while 113 people have been injured. Here in Gov't, Abra, over 600 individuals have evacuated their homes following the initial earthquake on Wednesday. They are temporarily staying in the Gov't Evacuation Center. Earlier today, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. visited the site to check the situation and assure that their needs will be met.
Tinitiyak natin ni Secretary Tulfo na lahat ng pangangailangan ninyo habang kayo ay nandito pa sa evacuation center ay meron kayong maibigay ang mga pagkain, mga kung ano man ang mga kailangan pa ninyo.
Marcos Jr. also directed authorities to make sure that communications lines are kept open for evacuees as well as power and water supply remains stable. The chief executive also took the time to thank his supporters in the province. Before visiting the evacuation center, the president attended a situation briefing at Camp 1 Villamor in Gov't. Mobile journalist Julie Baiza, We Are One News.
Here to talk to us more about the aftermath of yesterday's earthquake, we have with us on the line NDRRMC spokesman Mark Timbal. Mr. Timbal, welcome to the big story.
Sir Robbie and Ma'am Riza, good evening, and to all our listeners and viewers, good evening po.
Quick situation lang po, kamusta po ba? What's the latest figures that we have in terms of casualties, damage?
Yes, sir. As of this time, sir, we have received information that there are 10,167 families or 48,621 persons which had been affected by the Abra earthquake. Currently, we have 1,784 families staying in 39 evacuation sites, while 744 families are staying outside the evacuation site, camping outside their own houses. For our casualty count, Sir Robbie, we're back to 5 fatalities. 4 came from the Cordilleras and 1 from Region 1. But this additional 1 from Ilocos Sur is still subject for verification. We have 131 injured persons report from the Cordilleras, Region 1 and Region 2. And we have 4 missing persons reported from the Cordillera. Currently, we have an assessed damage for infrastructure amounting to 33.8 million, million, coming from Region 1 alone. The computation for damage from Cordillera at region are still ongoing, Sir Robbie.
Okay.
Are still being resolved by the different local power cooperatives, but in Ilocos Sur, the province-wide power interruption was resolved as of yesterday, but there are other parts of Region 1 and the Cordilleras that are still have this problem. Signal interruption is also being addressed by our local telecommunications partners. We have received information that a total of 2,423 houses had been damaged from this earthquake, Sir Robbie.
Mr. Timbal, ito pong mga numbers na sinasite nyo, does this take into account all areas at this point? Or are there still places that are inaccessible, not just physically, but even in terms of information?
So far, sir, in terms of communication, wala naman po tayong isolated location. However, yung ating pong areas na nagka-problema due to the road blockage, these are also being reached naman by the local government units. So far, we haven't received information na may area talaga na hindi nahatiran ng tulong as of now. But our lines are open. Kung meron po tayo mga kababayan na nangangailangan ng tulong, please wag po sila mag-atubili to inform us so that our counterparts in the local relief operations can be informed.
Sir Mark, as the days goes on, mas napopronounce po yung damage nitong earthquake na ito. Are we expecting more people to be moving to the isolation areas in the coming days? And are we ready for such situation?
So far, ma'am, no isolation facilities are required since we don't have any COVID-19 incidents recorded as of now. But in terms of the evacuation facilities, we are receiving initial reports that some of the residents are being allowed to go home, especially if their houses have already been determined or evaluated as structurally sound. But we're still confirming the details. We may be adjusting the number of the evacuated population later. When it comes to the damaged infrastructure, hindi pa po kasama yung ating mga heritage sites, especially those in Vigan. These are still to be evaluated since there's a different procedure to check the cost of damage to these historical sites. We're coordinating with relevant authorities to do so.
Mr. Timbal, yesterday po kausap namin ng PDRRMO sa Abra and nabanggit niya nga rin po that because of the landslides, there were some barangays, even entire municipalities cut off. Now, you said ngayon, so far, lahat naman ng LGUs are able to reach their constituents. But what does reach mean? Nakakausap or kaya na bang hatiran ng lahat ng kailangan?
So far kasi, sir, in terms of communication, yung pakikipag-usap, nagagawa po yan ng LGUs natin with our disaster managers. Yung ating pong supply of relief naman po, these are distributed across different stockpiles in the local government units. So far po, wala pa pong LGU naman na nagsasabi at the national level po na hindi nila maabot yung kanilang mga kasamahan or ibang mga barangay po. But what we have committed, especially on the part of the armed forces, is that all assets, especially the air assets, are ready for mobilization to support relief efforts. Anytime po na kailanganin po yan para mag-transfer ng relief to communities, magagawa po natin yan.
Huli na lang po, nabanggit niyo po kung may kailangan pa ang ating mga kababayan dito sa mga apektadong lugar. Sabi niyo, sumangguni lang, di ba, sa LGU at saka sa mga offices ng NDRRMC or PDRRMO. Paano po nila gagawin yon?
Yeah, they can reach us through social media or they can dial they can call the 911 emergency hotline. Ito pong mga accounts natin sa social media po, nakamonitor po tayo dyan sa NDRRMC, Civil Defense PH, DSWD. Kapag nakita po natin ang paghingi po ng tulong, agad po natin itong nire-refer dyan sa ating mga kasamahan sa ground para agad po makapagbigay tayo ng relief support.
Okay, maraming salamat po. Stay safe. Ingat po kayo dyan. NDRRMC spokesman Mark Timbal. And after the break, we will get updates on relief operations after yesterday's earthquake. That and more when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
A key sector in our transformation plans is that
watching the big story here on One News. Now, aside from fears caused by the magnitude 7 earthquake, residents in Gov't, Abra also panicked due to alleged reports of flooding in the area. Mobile journalist Kyla Macantan gives us a front seat to the story.
Around 113 families remain at the evacuation center in Gov't Town Plaza in Abra after the magnitude 7 earthquake. But it seems like the most of them left their homes, not because they were damaged, but rather out of panic. After the earthquake, word allegedly got around that water from a nearby provincial dam will be released. This will apparently hit Barangay Santa Rosa in Gov't. Because of this, residents like Jocelyn quickly left their homes to move to the evacuation center. There were also reports that cash assistance was being given out in these evacuation centers. These, however, was quickly denied by local officials. Raquel Pacurso from Barangay Palau fled to her father-in-law's house out of panic.
Nila sa Santa Rosa, baha na daw. Tapos yung mga asawa namin pumunta sila doon para kunin yung mga kalabaw, baka, para pero fake news din pala daw.
As the province tries to recover from the quake, residents are having hard time looking for a clean water supply. This, as mud is still coming out of water pumps.
Panluto, panghugas, ng pinggan. Okay lang yan po kaysa walang gamitin na tubig.
Mobile journalist Kyla Macantan, we are One News.
Naramdaman niyo rin po yung mga aftershocks nito?
It's unfortunate. You know, in problematic times, in times of calamities, one of the most important things is good information. And one of the most aggravating things is bad information, if not malicious information.
It's so crucial, itong mga impormasyon na makarating sa mga kababayan natin, especially those that are affected or were affected by the earthquake. And like what you said, Robbie, it's just sad. It's unfortunate that still in a kind of situation like this, may mga fake news pa. And let's talk more about that.
Yeah, but in the meantime, at least kahit paano nananaig pa rin yung good information.
Right.
It is getting to the people who need them the most, and we'll talk a bit more about that, especially in line, of course, with the efforts of also of government and civil society to reach out to the people who need help. We will pause for a short break right now, but keep it here on One News. We'll talk about all of that.
To my fellow Filipinos, ang aking
You're still watching the big story here on One News. The National Commission for Culture and the Arts estimates that it could take at least 5 years before the government can fully restore all heritage sites damaged by the magnitude 7 earthquake. In a press conference earlier today, the NCCA said it is currently coordinating with their local counterparts and some NGOs to assess the damage caused by the quake to the affected heritage sites. The NCCA will be forming a technical team together with the National Historical Commission, the National Museum, the National Archives, and the National Library. The team will be sent to the provinces of Abra, Ilocos Sur, and Ilocos Norte next week to conduct their own inspections following the rescue and clearing operations in these areas. But the NCCA says the government cannot fully fund the restoration efforts. That's why they will be seeking help from organizations like UNESCO and USAID. The NCCA has yet to release any estimate of the cost of damage to the affected historical sites, but they say the damage from yesterday's quake appears smaller compared to that caused by the 2013 earthquake in Bohol.
Definitely, we cannot fund all the restorations of this. The government cannot afford that. So, magkakaroon din kami ng issue ng who to prioritize, assuming na pwede naming galawin ito. I think the restoration of these damaged structures will be faster compared to the ones in Bohol and Cebu.
Now, to further discuss the ongoing assistance being given by the DSWD to affected residents, we have DSWD Assistant Secretary Romel Lopez. He's joining us via Zoom. Sir, good evening.
Yes, Mabrisa and Sir Roby, good evening.
Welcome to the big story, Sir Lopez. Now, can you give us an update on, first, sir, we're receiving reports that there are fake news being spread to evacuation sites. How is the department addressing this?
Yes, of course, let me remind the public that we should not rely on info readily available through the internet. We should only rely on those information news given by authorities so that, of course, everybody will be safe. Just one point of advice, especially when our kababayans will try to get the information from social media, especially those questionable accounts, we should always be worried. And, the word of the mouth or yung chismis, we should avoid that. It is not too much to ask the barangay officials, local government officials, the police, and especially the LGU in your area regarding any issue to verify, of course, the truthfulness of any reports or news. Let us also remind our kababayans who are peddling this wrong information that they might be liable by spreading fake news, especially when this fake news will cause any harm to our kababayans. Riza.
Asek Lopez, okay. That said, kamusta naman ang relief efforts natin?
Yes, through our field offices, especially with the field offices 1 or for Region 1 and then field offices CAR for the Cordillera Administrative Region, the social workers of the DSWD in close coordination with NDRRMC, the LG, and the local government units, we're working around the clock just to extend assistance to our kababayan. We have already disbursed cash assistance to those family, especially our casualties or those who died because of these earthquakes. We have dispersed 10,000 pesos for these casualties and another 25,000 pesos for burial assistance because that is the mandate of Secretary Erwin Tulfo to our social workers on the ground to pay for the burial of our victims. We have also distributed a lot of relief food packs in areas that are badly affected, especially in the areas of Abra, Ilocos Sur, Ilocos Norte, Benguet, just to name it. We have provided assistance of 146,000 with the help of the LGU. We are monitoring at least 119,000 individuals that are in evacuation centers. We have our kababayans who are outside. There are at least 3,500 individuals. Right now, we have a standby funds amounting to 1.3 billion pesos just to augment the victims of this recent earthquake in northern Luzon, Sir Robbie.
Asek Lopez, yesterday we got reports of landslides, blocked roads, blocked passages. Are there any areas, municipalities, barangays that are particularly difficult to reach or to get out of?
Yes, this morning we know that during the situational briefing with President Bongbong Marcos Jr., one of our regional director for Cordillera or for CAR asked the help of the AFP to provide us additional aircraft so that we can airlift our food packs. They have identified 7 areas in CAR that are now still isolated. So we wanted to reach our kababayan area as soon as possible. That's why we are asking the help of the AFP. So right now, indeed, we're facing several challenges just to reach out for our kababayan. Especially, we have landslide, we have isolated areas. But you can be rest assured, our kababayans can be assured that the DSWD is making everything, and we're finding ways just to help our kababayans at this point in time. Sir Robbie.
Asek, can you describe to us the situation in the evacuation areas? Siksika na ba? Are there more people coming in? And how are we managing the situation as to not to spread the, let's say, COVID-19 virus?
Yes, that's really one of our problem right now, because usually when we're facing calamities like a typhoon or man-made calamities like an armed conflict, usually we utilize classrooms. We utilize schools as our evacuation center. But in these areas that are badly affected by the 7.0 magnitude quake, some of these evacuation centers that we've been using before are now compromised. The structural integrity of these buildings are questionable. That's why the DSWD is working hand in hand with the local government unit to identify areas that are not compromised so that we can maximize it as evacuation centers. For Gov't Abra, for example, we have identified the Gov't covered court in Gov't is safe. So that's why we're housing several families in that area. We have put up at least less than 100 temporary shelters or that makeshift house or temporary shelters in that area. That's why while managing these evacuation centers, we see to it that health protocols will be observed. Just like unlike before, that we can maximize the capacity of a certain classroom. Right now, we're just limiting it with the family, and we are putting up wash areas in every evacuation center to see to it that cleanliness in the area is being observed. Aside from that, we're providing sanitation materials, alcohol, and our social workers are there round the clock just to make sure that every evacuee are observing health protocols to avoid the transmission of COVID-19. Mamri.
Okay, maraming salamat po. That was DSWD Assistant Secretary Romel Lopez. And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
Now, the big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.